So happy to chat with folks.
Okay, we're a little behind schedule, and I think that any questions here will kind of naturally can be brought up in the next two sessions, which are segments, which are quite different in that they're meant to be the discussion part of the workshop. So I do have a couple of slides just to share some thoughts, but they're not very pretty slides like all the beautiful slides and all the beautiful work you've seen, but just try to help us think a little bit. So, you know, the goal obviously is to unite to detect optical technosignatures. And I think, as we know, there's been a lot of amazing work, and the goal is to see what we can do to provide some mechanisms or modalities for collaboration. With really, you know, I always like to have a mission statement because it focuses you. And so we want to continue to establish, we're not starting anything necessarily because obviously these communities exist, but we want to continue to establish the global scientific community, key being on scientific community. We want peer-reviewed journals, publications, and so on to pursue optical technosignature work. And I think we've already seen from the last 2 days that there's a very impressive breadth. This is just the agenda, basically, and you know, today I took a screenshot of the participants today. So, you know, of a lot of amazing topics and of order 50 people who are very actively engaged or interested in this work. And I think if you look just at this slide, the word that comes to mind to me, I just thought was opportunity. There's an amazing amount of opportunity to progress this sort of work. And that's what we're trying to enable and further with this attempt at collaboration. So I just had, this is my last slide, which is really just a set of things kind of thrown down to try to focus things we might want to discuss going on the right. There are a few random things, the schedule, some different modalities of where the work goes and different types of signals we might look at. But I'm going to spend a few minutes on my kind of hastily thrown around bullet points because it's meant to be specific collaboration modalities, not on the science itself, but collaboration modalities that we might want to explore going forward. And in some sense, what we want to try to identify on a first instance is what Breakthrough Listen can do for you. I guess the opposite of Kennedy, ask what Breakthrough Listen can do for you first and see what we can do in that forum. So the first is just to explore what kind of forums we might want to enable or leverage. Existing forums, for instance, the LSST Corporation has an existing set of working groups and fora and so on. Obviously online, look at online things we might want to do, existing newsletters or conferences that we might want to piggyback on or augment with a optical technosignature workshop. Workshops like this that we put on and host or different groups put on and host, hopefully in person at some point in time, or we can meet over coffee and go to Trieste. And we can bring you all to Berkeley, of course. What sort of cadence should we think about? Should we think about a specific cadence? What sort of scope might we want to think about? Just networking is important. Already, it's kind of cool at this meeting. We've hooked up Beatrice and Andrew at Caltech, hopefully, and they can further Vasco activities or CTA and OSETI and so on. So things like that are actually quite important for furthering the science. I mentioned travel. One of the things that we've tended to be very successful at Breakthrough Listen is to enable travel for collaboration. Primarily, often it's to bring people to Berkeley to spend a few concentrated weeks or more. We can set up a visiting scholar and come visit Berkeley to work, or facilitate our team going elsewhere, or being more creative. Instruments and facilities, that's a very broad one, and it's actually several pages, but I think we've seen that there are a lot of instruments and facilities, all the way from amazing space-based programs that we want to try to leverage by enabling postdocs and science to go on, to small bespoke things. I thought it was kind of cool that SSL, the BVIT instrument on SALT, well, they'll be willing to lend that out to someone if they want to put it on something to test and use it. And as we saw, there are also other interesting smaller facilities that we could work on. I think John even mentioned we have a little educational telescope near Berkeley that as something we can get our hands dirty on and try throwing things on just to try things out. So this goes all the way from instruments that people might want to build to put on a telescope, or a small thing that they might want to collaborate with, to leveraging our work with facilities. Again, we're part of the LSST Corporation and the working groups they have, and trying to get more involved. Another thing we have been very, very successful on is leveraging computing. Now, this has been targeted primarily toward radio, where, for fairly modest effort, we can provide a nice server with some processing, put that at a telescope, and all of a sudden, people there that are interested in SETI can start to do real SETI at their telescope. And so there always exists the possibility of exploring ways that we may be able to fund, or we may be able to co-fund or help find funding for specific hardware to trial things. And I think, as Yuhan just showed, there's a lot of capability that we're growing in machine learning, including, hopefully some online platforms and techniques that might be able to help a wider group of people. As you know, Breakthrough Listen has kind of more traditionally been in the radio, but one of the things we're trying to do is add team members on optical. And since we're trying to do that, we are looking for collaborators for said team members. And of course, bringing John on and having him put this sort of workshop on is just the sort of thing that really can leverage that. And pursuing funding opportunities, I think in some small ways, we can provide some seed funding or helpful funding, but really what we want is to try to have funding lines within national or foundation groups. And we can help pursue that. We can maybe help leverage that, and so on. And I think one of the things, an important outcome, we kind of in many ways have two primary goals. The first is, of course, to detect the signature of an extraterrestrial civilization and transform humanity and bring world peace, and so on and so on. That is the end goal and what we're working toward. But in many ways, to get there, setting up academic pipelines and an academic community that can produce, further this work, provide a larger, people can come into the field and not be orphaned over on a side doing, crackpot stuff or something, but have a full academic program and pipeline and community that they can work within. And that's really one of the key goals that Breakthrough Listen is working on and trying to enhance. And I think if you look at, for instance, the Breakthrough Listen publication record is already quite impressive. And it's one of the means that we hope to achieve this academic pipelines. And again, the amazing students, I suspect many of us will be working for those students as they very high achieving, and will go out into the academic market and do quite well. So that was it for the slides. And what I want to do is hopefully stop sharing, and I cleverly made it my background. But I would suggest that you minimize me and try to get the entire gallery on. And see if we can engender, some discussion, and we'll try to take some notes. Sorry, I'm going over to where I could possibly take some notes. And one of the problems is it's such a wide range of things, right? Where do we start the discussion? And I'm curious if anyone wants to throw something out on the table. Or ask questions that have come up on earlier talks and that didn't get a chance to get asked, or were able to think about a bit more.
Yeah, I